They say history is written by the victors, and they're right. Not just in war, not just in politics, but in video games as well. And in the world of grand strategy video games, Hearts of Iron 4 reigns supreme. Millions of copies sold, thousands of players online every day, and enough DLCs to unlock a new mortgage option on your house. But what if I told you there was another game? A forgotten comrade, a lost prequel that could have changed everything. This is the story of East vs West, a Hearts of Iron game set in the Cold War with promises of nuclear brinkmanship, spy networks, customizable warships, and even the chance to appoint your 12-year-old cousin as the Dalai Lama. And yet, almost nobody remembers it. Why? Because East vs West didn't win. It didn't even launch. History forgot it, until now. So let's rewind the tapes, crack open the archives, and uncover the doomed dream of the greatest Hearts of Iron game never made. Before Hearts of Iron 4 dropped in 2016 and occupied everyone's spare time like a hungry spreadsheet-fed monster, there was another promising prospect: East vs West. Unlike its older cousins, this wasn't a DLC. Heck, this wasn't even a mod. It was an entire standalone game based off of Hearts of Iron 3 and developed by BioLogic, a studio born from the modding scene that previously gave us Arsenal of Democracy, which itself was a spin-off of HOI4's. Their goal was to build a Cold War simulator spanning 45 years, from 1946 to 1991, covering the full mutually assured destruction package. And they weren't just making another paint the map war simulator. No, this was pitched as a Victoria 2 and Hearts of Iron 3 love child, complete with a complex economic system, politics, culture, demographics, asymmetrical warfare, the United Nations, and an entire nuclear arsenal at your fingertips. Features that were never present in a Paradox game until then and were never promised ever since. You can't have a Cold War game without nukes lurking in the background like an awkward family secret. East vs West went all in, building a whole nuclear engine that balanced terrifying realism with avoiding a micromanagement nightmare. Forget manually clicking each missile. ICBMs lived in silos, boomer submarines creeped silently offshore, and strategic bombers just magically got loaded with nukes. Enriched uranium came from centrifuges you had to build and protect. There was a special map mode, glowing ominously in red, showing the missile ranges and nuclear capabilities of your friends and foes. You could tell the AI to focus on economic and military targets or just nuke everything in sight, painting provinces like Bob Ross with a thermonuclear brush.
Beat the devil out of it. That really is the fun part of this whole technique.
Even a DEFCON system and a doomsday clock were present, counting the minutes before shit really hit the fan. When you finally press the big red button, after thinking of a loved one of course, the missiles launch with bureaucratic delays and trajectories tracing elegant death spirals while you crawled under your desk. And yes, you could even build expensive missile defenses and early warning systems, because nothing says Cold War like praying to God while you duck and cover, hoping your giant expensive rocket shield works before all hell breaks loose. In East vs West, nukes weren't just weapons. They were a vibe, an automated dance of dread with a UI that made annihilation look almost easy. If nukes are the fire, the economy is its fuel. The real game of who can afford to buy the other guy's lunch and then some. East vs West aimed to simulate a Cold War economy so detailed you'd need an MBA just to turn the page on the budget. You weren't just building and managing civilian and military factories. You were juggling different resources produced in each province, calculating potential profits on different consumer goods, monitoring population demographics, and political will, all while trying not to accidentally bankrupt your entire country. Civilians weren't just a number either. The population was tracked by age, culture, and religion. Kids grew up. Workers toiled. Prosperity meant more babies, and war meant more cannon fodder. One could build specialized factories and invest in infrastructure. Research advanced not only your military but also improved prestige. The devs even teased a proper space race. And if things got rough, one could attempt more creative policies like cutting welfare programs, declaring martial law, or banning your political enemies. As for trade and diplomacy, they weren't just window dressing, but your lifeline. The United Nations allowed countries to vote on resolutions, embargo others, sanction aggressors, and even intervene in foreign wars. If diplomacy didn't work, there were shadier ways to get things done. Hearts of Iron 3 had spies, sure, but let's be honest, they were about as subtle as a brick through a window. East vs. West promised to up the ante with a system so slick it made James Bond look like a door-to-door salesman. A country would generate spy points, which sounds boring but basically meant you could buy secret agent cards, each with special powers. Wanna clear the fog of war? Done. Wish to flip an entire country to your faction like a political pancake? Easy. And the best part, your agents leveled up. That's right, your spy was basically grinding XP in the art of espionage. If managing everything proved to be too much, one could leave different parts of the game to the AI, which developers said was pretty good. Apparently, it was at its best when controlling enemy states, as it was designed to keep players entertained and engaged throughout their potentially half-century spanning playthroughs. They even named it Niccolo, after Machiavelli, 50 Cent's favorite medieval life coach. Other smaller but also exciting features included a fully customizable ship designer and the separation of a division's strength bar into manpower and equipment. This might seem familiar to Hearts of Iron 4 players, but it was completely unheard of in previous games of the series. And last but not least, the weirdest thing I remember about East vs. West, which was the campaign known as We Are the World. It was a major hush-hush secret designed to get your face into the Cold War. The idea was as cool as it was bonkers, as players could submit real-life photos of themselves and be portrayed as heads of state. The wearing of silly hats was encouraged, and the devs had a great idea for every underage player.
You know, the Dalai Lama, he was very young when he was chosen as this Dalai Lama. So now if you're 12 years old, yeah, you could probably be another Dalai Lama. So it is possible.
The dev's pitch worked great. People were hyped and Paradox was licking its chops. It seemed too good to be true, and unfortunately it was. The game was slated for release in Q2 of 2013, and then 2014, then nothing. Eventually, they announced a pay-what-you-want beta, cutting multiplayer and several systems to iron out the essentials. Paradox admitted the devs were behind schedule, and critics whispered, "This is Magna Mundi all over again." On March 6, 2014, the final bomb dropped. East vs. West was cancelled. In a joint statement released on the Paradox forum, everyone's suspicions were confirmed. The plug was pulled due to big delays and inability to meet quality standards. Basically, Paradox realized BL Logic were stuck in development hell and decided to cut their losses. This says a lot, as Paradox after all is famous for releasing bare-bone games that eventually get fleshed out with paid DLCs. Still, players demanded the pay-what-you-want beta. Fans of the studio had to suffer through March of the Eagles, so how bad could this be? But their cries were in vain. The publisher never released an early version, nor did it the source code, as it contained the secrets to their proprietary Clausewitz engine. And it is perhaps the limitations of the older version of this engine upon which East vs. West was developed that buried things for good. That and the impending arrival of Hearts of Iron 4. East vs. West never made it out of development hell, but it didn't die for nothing. Some of its best ideas live on in Hearts of Iron 4. The ship designer was introduced in the HOI4 expansion Man the Guns, and the dev team extended the same concepts to tanks and planes in later expansions as well. The espionage system took inspiration from the different spy missions and the level up perks of East vs. West, while the combination of equipment and manpower for combat strength also has its roots in the Cold War spin-off. And yes, with its ICBMs and nuclear submarines, it does look like Hearts of Iron 4 might eventually expand to cover the post-World War II period. East vs. West didn't fail because it was a bad idea. It failed because it tried to do too many things at once, limited by an engine, budget, and a lack of dev experience who just couldn't carry its massive radioactive ambitions. The game now exists in a digital limbo, somewhere between what could have been and thank God that didn't ship. But the dream does live on in Cold War mods for Hearts of Iron 4 and the hearts of everyone who remembers this silly saga. I, for one, would love to play a proper Paradox GSG covering this period, and I'm sure I'm not alone. Thanks for watching this video, and if you liked it, you know the drill. See you around, partner.